right, I'm going. Never would have thought in our mind that that is what took place for multiple reasons. And we're going to call a thing because you all are going to be dealing with cases, uncomfortable things. You're going to go to houses where lifestyles and things will be different, and this is real life practice. And as an African American woman, you would never first assume that two black males in an intimate or gay relationship would be publicly exchanging and making it known that they're in a relationship. Culturally, values, that's not what we are taught. So this, even for a black person looking at other two black men, I thought drug deal too. So we're gonna do the work and really learn and talk about things. I'm okay with being vulnerable. It's not only, white people who make these assumptions. These are the things unconsciously that we believe and that we are uncomfortable with and we don't talk about, right? Never would have thought that would have been. But again, when you ask questions and you find out what's happening, you go from maybe grabbing your purse and being fearful to just being uncomfortable that that was a romantic exchange. And that is an honest perspective, but you can have that and not be disrespectful, not change your values, because we live in a very diverse world, okay? And yeah, it's uncomfortable, but we're gonna learn and talk about it in the same space. Next one.
And then it should be fine. We've got it in the bag. Just show up early and then it should be okay. Oh my God. I've got to go. I've got class in 10 minutes.
Okay, what are your first assumptions about Asian or island, Asia Pacific island person? Cell phone, glasses, with a backpack. What are your thoughts? Student, college, teacher. Okay.
Okay, class. This is Econ 101. This is an introductory class. It's a prereq for econ majors and business majors.
Now, from what you know about Asian culture and very geisha, very submissive environments, would you have assumed that not only she wasn't a student, but she was a professor, and that she was a professor in an economics program?
Yes, but only because I work at the university.
Yes, but this is a good point. She looks age. So it may not be, and notice that this is a perspective from women towards another woman. So just the way that I was, potentially my bias about the two black males, sometimes we have bias even within our own environments and with our own gender and with our different things. So imagine how our implicit and unconscious bias works in environments where, and again, age, gender, all these things are those dimensions of diversity that we balance and walk the fine line with every day. Okay, we've got one more.
Yeah, dude, that function's not due until the next sprint.
Well, Sophia said that we
No,
are.
I appreciate Sophia's concern, but we all agreed on these dates.
She said she wrote the date down
Well,
wrong.
that's her problem.
Thoughts? What's happening there? He's a jerk. He's a jerk. Any other thoughts?
He's the boss.
He's the boss? He's the boss?
Yeah.
Okay.
But wait,
Don't give him that tip. He was using your cell phone in your car to make phone calls. He was overzealous. Right? Would we think that? I think the jerk part was right. But did we think that he was the valet?
Yeah,
No. And tell me why.
He looked really comfortable.
He looked comfortable. He was in the Tesla.
Yeah.
He had the glasses on. He looked confident. But he looked like a boss. Tell me why. He was a male. Glasses. Nice car. Because that's what, when we say, who's the leader? Who's the boss? When we walk into a room and people do it all the time. They come in and go, we're going to meet the director of diversity in CJ. And it'll be a professor on the wall, and I'll be in there with a whole suit, like seriously, like making the bed and getting ready. And they'll just say, hey, you must be And they're like, no, it's her. But that happens every day, right? Okay, so that's just, and again, it doesn't make it bad. It just makes it something to be aware of. And you can put grace and give grace to yourself, but just be more receptive if someone has the courage or if they say, well, that made me uncomfortable.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Did you think he was a boss?
Did I?
Yeah, because I didn't.
Yes.
I wondered if it was just my
He
age.
looks young. He looks so young.
Yeah,
And see, that's another thing.
I didn't think it at all.
We think young people can't be bosses, when a lot of them are making millions and they're laying in their room on TikTok. You know, and they're, you know, or they, you know, some of our international students are coming over from different countries and they're like graduating with 4 degrees by 21 and going to be oil tycoons down at Exxon. But we just say, oh, they're young, they can't be that. That's a form of bias. And then when we think about diversity, we sometimes only stop at the race part. But there's so many dimensions. Age, how you work, how you live, how you pray, who you marry. We have our values that we hold dear. And anything that makes us uncomfortable, we get on autopilot because we don't want to think about it, we don't want to accept it, it's out of our paradigm. Yeah.
In your studies and all, our biases tend to be stronger within your own group or outside of your race or
Biases really are, it's the value system. For example, if you value the Constitution and you value your rights, anything that you feel impedes on that value system, there's a little more dissonance, there's a little more resistance, there's a little more defensiveness, and it's very hard to penetrate a neutral space. So I won't say that it's so much within a specific population. There is internalized, what they call internalized racism or internalized thought processes where you have heard and seen things so much that you just lean into them and you cast out hope and doubt. And I think sometimes if you've ever watched an intervention drug show and people say, we love you and we're willing, and they say, there's no hope for me. That's an internal thing, but it's something that is constantly being said and they lean into it. But again, that's the value system. So the value may be, I want to be this clean, you know, drug-free person, but I don't know how. So since I can't and I can't attain it, I just sink into it. And it's easier to accept what's perpetuated, what's said constantly, than to embrace a new understanding or a heightened level of possibility for yourselves. And we may see that with people, especially children who have been in a system. And so affirming, I'll give you an example. I'm happy you asked that question. You may go to a situation, and let's say I used this example in a training before. You may go in and see if this case or if this house is clean or if the person is fit to, say, get their children back, right? And you come in the house, there's an air mattress on the floor, there are just maybe 2 packs of noodles on the counter, and there's rat traps and roach motels everywhere. Now, if your secondary or other dimension says, we have a clean house, we equate rats and rodents with filth and dirt, not poverty. They can't afford extermination. They are in a low-income area where they don't pick up the trash all the time, and so these things embed the walls. It's an old complex. They have poor insulation. So there are a lot of things that when you're walking in with bias on and on autopilot, oh no, this kid can never come here, because we're basing it on where our kids are and what we've seen. And you may say, you know what, the mom or parent or caregiver is protecting the kid in the best way that they can, and can I use my judgment to see that there is some consideration for the welfare of the child or the person. And that is when you are applying these things and you're pushing past your bias. So some of this is internalized, because you may find that you'll go into a family where it's more so they may look like you and identify like you and have similar values. You immediately, your bias pushes to see the best in them. Well, I know if I just come back, they were on time, and so you may reduce the standard a little bit because you have a similar value system and you have a place of relevance to offer grace and extend, okay, they're trying. When you're going into some unknown territory and you're like, what the heebie-jeebies is this? that wall goes up, that unconscious, I had to get out of there, it's like, nope, not ready, can't go, you shouldn't be there. It's not a bad thing, it just is. And when we get better in this space, it's just simply having that awareness to say, okay, I'm here. When you go back through those cases and you're jotting and you're charting and doing those things, write down, knee jerk, what happened first. And then step away, check your own biases, and reread it. Go back to the case and see, in this environment, is this an improvement from which they came? And use that sound judgment and reach out to your supporters and advocates to help. I think we got 2 people, this is their first year. Yep. Does that help, or is this, like I said, it's a presentation, but I don't believe in just sticking to the script. If you have questions and you need the tools while I'm here to help you, we can throw this thing away and engage, because we learn more and we can apply it to what we're actually doing. Okay, we good? Okay. All right, so you got a little entertainment in the video. Now let's get back to the technicals. All right, so here's some other things that we need to talk about, okay? And then we'll open it for questions. So bias, like I mentioned, it's not bad, and it's a cycle, okay? The good thing about bias is it's manageable. Maybe not the first time. You're gonna screw up. You're going to screw up. But how do you learn from it? How do you recover? Okay, so it's malleable, manageable, it's unconscious and automatic. So don't think you're gonna go in and like, I got my bias sunglasses on, I'm a bionic person. No, it sneaks up on you, okay? So just know it just happens. It's very pervasive, it's deep rooted, because again, it's attached to your values. It's attached to what makes you you. So me judging my husband in that bed was attached to me, not him. But I understand that now. And I'm a DEI person, but I was still judging. This is the thing that I really think kind of messes with people at the very bottom of the pot. Sometimes it's incongruent with your beliefs. Again, I try to align myself with my faith practice. I wake up and do my devotionals and I try to do what I'm supposed to do. But some behaviors or some things that I do subconsciously or unconsciously, it's a direct conflict with what I claim to practice. It's not an intention, it just is. And I know that. There are just some thoughts that I'm thinking, I'm like, now, I know this man has been out here for 4 days and I saw him go get in a Maserati, but he's asking for $1 and it's hot and he said he wants to buy a bottle of water. So you do what you're supposed to do, just give him the $1, it ain't gonna hurt you, your dollar gonna come back. If he does whatever he does, the gift and the spirit of giving and honoring and loving thy neighbor says give him the $1. But my bias says, So it's incongruent. It's incongruent. It just is. And some days I give the $1, some day I lean on my bias and go, I think something bad's gonna happen with this $1 and I'm gonna keep it moving. Tomorrow if he's here, I'll bring him a bottle of water. And we try to rationalize, well, I didn't do what I knew I was supposed to do. Because I judged, I assumed, I didn't lean, I didn't have grace. And yeah, you gotta be careful. But based on what I say and who I am, it was $1. I had it to bless and I didn't. It is what it is. What we do with that is what we do with it. But the worst thing that you could do is be complicit by making excuses and saying, well, I was taught, lead with, my approach is I put God's heart in front of mine. If that's offensive to you, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be. But some things that are hard for me, I say, okay, in my heart, it's carnal, it can mess up, and it can definitely be wicked. So in this moment, I'm going to put God's heart in front of mine, and I'm going to see where it leads me, and that's where I go. That's my personal practice. You may have that difference. So whatever you use to center you, to get you to think from a neutral place, is going to be the strength in this work. Okay? Talk about the hard days, decompress, and if something really bothers you, learn more about it. All right, microaggressions, because this is what happens when we don't lean into and check our biases, okay? A microaggression is a brief, commonplace, daily slight. It's an insult and it's an indignity that is intentional and unintentional. And I like to think about this, you know, you get an insect bite or an ant bite, if you get one, you know, you put some alcohol on it and you're like, oh, one got me. But if the next day Another one gets you in the same spot, hurts a little bit more. 30 days of the same ant biting you in the same space takes a toll. Okay? And we're gonna watch a quick video on what that looks like. But I hear a lot of times, you speak well for a black person. Or I hear, you're pretty for a black person. Or I hear, you know, well, you don't look that old. And you know, it's just like, what was the purpose of that comment?
I like
Right?
the last one.
Right? You know, what was the purpose? But again, they don't mean it. Sometimes people mean that as a backhanded compliment, right? So again, with God's heart, and because I do this work, rather than go, oh, I go, so what did you mean by that? I think you're trying to compliment me. And they go, yes. And I go, thank you. But I'm mature enough to do that. Sometimes when it happens, people shut down. And in this case, you all need people to be open to get information, to connect, to build a relationship. So another thing, you know, when you think about a microaggression, we say, oh, that stuff doesn't matter. It does. Because if somebody's smiling, everybody crack a big smile. Big smile, big smile, big smile. Right. And I go, oh my gosh, you have a beautiful smile. And I just take my hand and stick it in your mouth and rub it around your teeth. How would that make you feel? Okay, well, and I'm going to say this. People say, oh, what's the big deal with black people and their hair? You know, I like your hair, and when I touch it, it's like, oh, don't touch a black person's hair. And I use that example all the time. Just because you have a beautiful smile, I don't come in and stick my finger in your mouth. And I said, maybe I can help someone today. When you come from slave descendants, and your body was not your own, you're very protective of your personal space and ownership of your body. And people walk around, they're putting on their masks, they're digging in their ears, they're tapping on their phones, sitting in the bathroom, hands are dirty, and this is a vessel of your hair. It's lace, it's lice and so many things, and people are waving windows, washing cars, and go, your hair is beautiful. So sometimes it's best to say, you know, what's the big deal with your hair? Rather than say, oh, that's stupid, we don't want to touch the hair. But you can just say, why is that so important? And people will take, like, oh, I'm so glad you asked. But our bias says, oh, this is going to be uncomfortable. This is going to be, no, it's the learning. So, like, if you're going in and you have people of different cultures and you have questions, just say, hey, tell me more about that. Is it okay if? And again, that's that opening up. Tell me more about your story. And that helps to fix your bias. It helps to, you know, educate you. But people always get a kick out of it. Like, you have a great smile. Or your teeth feel like it. Right? Okay, a micro invalidation. This is another one that we can be, yeah. Yeah, you want to go back?
I'm sorry.
Yes, a microaggression. So it's just a daily slide. Just think of a microaggression is the mosquito bite or the ant bite. It's like over and over and over and over.
These are good notes, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're okay. Okay, and micro-invalidation. This is a great one. I'll do this with a story, okay? So I love my next door neighbor. Sweetest person. You know, we both have the rings. We forget stuff. Forget to turn the iron off. We text, hey, can you go in the house and turn it off? Unlock the door, do it, right? This one particular day, I have two sons, African-American sons. I have to say that because some people have adopted kids, but both my kids are black boys. And I live in a pretty nice area in Spring, not too far from the Woodlands. And I don't know if you know any teenagers, but as hot as it is in Texas, they want to wear hoodies every day.
I don't get
I
it.
don't know. I think they're like body insecure. I don't know, but my boys stink. I'm like, you're sweating because take that hoodie off. But my son, in the morning, he rides the bus. He goes to his high school, Grand Oaks High School. And because I commute, I leave at 6:45. My son walks out of the house at 6:30. And I have a very real fear about him being alone, walking just from the neighborhood to the bus stop with his hoodie on. My next door neighbor has a son as well. They hang out all the time, they play Beat Saber and little VR all the time. And every day I drive off, I go and you know, the boys are talking, they're on their phone, they both have their hoodies, and I'm in my car, I'm like, he's just like, oh. So one day my neighbor, who loved to death, she comes up to me and she was like, why do you do that? And I said, I didn't want to go into depth about why I felt that way. I said, it gives me peace to know that his face is visible and it just makes me feel better. I got home later in the day. I didn't speak to her. We normally chat outside the car when we get home. I shut down. I didn't feel like talking about it. I didn't want to explain because I felt I was pissed off, right? It wasn't fair to her. And so I think she came over the next morning when the boys were going, and she was like, "You didn't talk to me yesterday." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't want to muddy our relationship with some heavy stuff." I said, "But I have a real fear about my son in this neighborhood walking to the bus stop, even if he's with your son." And I said, "Your son is white. They're not going to ask him if he lives here. They're not going to do some of the things. And I don't want him to have that experience." And she said, "Well, I know you travel." And she was like, "Amari, put your hoodie on and get in my car. I'm dropping you boys off at the bus stop." And I cried all the way to work because she took the time when before I felt like she invalidated my real fear because she doesn't have to worry about that with her kid. And I didn't want to have the conversation. And you're going to find that in some of these environments when you go and you talk, you just got to watch body language. And sometimes people are tired of explaining, but because she demonstrated a level of interest and curiosity, it helped me to be more vulnerable and to let her know that I had a real fear, and it hurt my feelings that when she kind of laughed at the feeling that I had, it really almost damaged our relationship. And I think that would have been a mystery for her. And I owed her the conversation because I respected her and she's my friend. But that, again, takes maturity. And I'm being very, very vulnerable in this moment because I can't do this work without real stories. Because we all have that heart tug in certain environments. And it doesn't matter when something is weird or uncomfortable. When we lean into it, you find that we all have the same heart over different things. But that's an example of a micro invalidation. It's not intentional. It's just sometimes because we're not auto-biased that we don't know. You can watch for cues about it. And again, it's not a messy way to deal with it. You just have to be patient with each other. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay, micro assault. And the video will paint this clearly, and then we'll open up for questions. Okay? But micro assaults, these are conscious things, right? This is that thing, like let's say I won't even go with race and stuff. I mean, I'm a black woman, so I got black examples. But I want to talk about stomach examples, okay? So somebody was like, hey, I thought you were dieting. I said, well, I was, and then I got in grad school, and then with the pandemic, and I was like eating all my COVID snacks like all the time, like for 2 years. So I didn't lose the weight. And she was like, well, I mean, people are not going to take you serious in your role like if you're fat. And I go,
What?
okay. And she was like, I mean, well, you're not like, I mean, well, I shouldn't say that, but you know, you got a few more pounds to lose. Like, what are you eating? And like every day in the break room, it was like, you're eating bread? You had pasta? You ate that biscuit? You got 10-ounce coffee? And it's like, that's an assault over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And again, who has a mom that does that? Anybody? Right. So it's like, so it's just things that you're like, man, and we know how that feels, right? It might be unintentional, but someone like just keeps going, and you're like, enough is enough. So that's an example, okay? Sorry, I went backwards. And the micro insults, so the assaults are over and over and over again intentionally. The micro insults are things like, oh, you have an accent. Where are you from? And someone says, Texas. No, where are you really from? Houston? Where are you from? Like, no, where are you really from? Harris County? You know, you know, but that's an example. And so I'm going to show you how these things take place. So this quick video is going to, okay, let's hopefully we won't have our, let's see, let's go. Okay. Perfect.
Hi, Joe. Sorry I'm late for the call. I had a perfect morning, had to catch the last set.
You surf?
Yeah, I'm at Ocean Beach pretty much all the time. You?
Totally. We'll have to go when I'm up there next week.
Hey, I'm stoked. Epic.
Are you John? Joe? Oh, yeah. Great to meet you. I totally had you pictured different in my head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but, anyways, can I get you a cup of coffee?
Okay. That's an example of a micro insult. On the phone, they were vibing, they were talking about their things, and it's like, oh, you're old. You're not like what I pictured. And the person's like, it's just that weird, awkward moment, right? And it happens so fast, okay? That's an example of a micro insult, okay? We're gonna, and these are very short.
Yeah, sure.
It looks crazy, it looks like a mess.
I don't believe it. Your hair always looks awesome. I mean, how do you do it? Do you twist it? Do you do it yourself?
Yeah, I twisted it myself.
Oh. I mean, do you mind?
Oh. Yeah, actually, I do mind.
Sorry.
But I mean, if you're really curious about it, there are like tons of YouTube videos out now about natural hair, so maybe check that out.
Okay, so that is a perfect example of a microaggression. It had nothing to do with like don't think about it. I mean, I know it's black and white, but think about it as the personal space invasion. Like you don't step into an elevator with or a phone booth when somebody's in there, right? You like if somebody's on the phone, they're in the phone booth, and you don't just open the door and just go in, right? That's just like it's I have agency, and I don't have to respect your authority of yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. This is an example of a micro assault. So the insult was just, oh, you didn't look like it. The other one was avoiding without permission and going into someone's personal space, and you would give that courtesy in other situations. This is the insult. This is that constant.
There's no way we were gonna make it to that date.
No. I have no idea what they were thinking. What are you doing this weekend?
Going to the beach with some buddies.
I mean, it sounds great. You've already got quite the tan. Where's your family from?
Here,
Before here, where are they from?
still here.
Before that.
A few generations from here.
Oh, sorry.
And again, these things don't have to make or break the relationship, okay? Again, they just happen. And when you just have an awareness, the cues are always in how people respond. And so if you are in a situation and you think it's good and the energy changes and the dynamic shifts, it's the moment to just pause and take inventory and go, okay. And I'll give you some quick things to note there. So any questions about that? I know I gave you the definitions, gave you some real life examples, but the videos, they happen in split seconds, okay? And nothing got violent, nothing got ugly, you know, that we're, most times, good people are good people, you know, no, none of this works on an irrational person, okay? Let me put that disclaimer. But a person, like, if you're irrational, you're irrational, okay? But generally speaking, if we recognize our ignorance and we recognize that something is not gelling, the best thing to do is just to take a step back. And I love your example about she got the text message and was like, what? She did nothing. Great. You know, take the time out. That's totally perfect. All right, so this is what's important. Because people say, why did you spend most of this time with us talking about bias? Okay. And there is a framework because we go through bias every day, and there's a stair-step process to things escalating, as there is in any other situation or interaction. But our natural biases and preferences affirm our affiliation with in-groups and create rejection and out-groups. So, the biggest thing in your roles as an advocate, and I hate to say this because it's going to sound very insensitive, but in some cases they've been rejected, okay? And we don't want our unconscious bias as an advocate and a helper to add more trauma to that. And that's the objective. It's not to change what you believe, not to argue and get on political lines and faith lines. It's just to say we're potentially in a trauma space and we don't want to add to the unintentional harm. Okay, can we all agree that that's the purpose?
Absolutely.
Okay, Sweet. And I'm gonna move this out. I don't think we talked enough about that, but this is the framework, okay? Now, in diversity training, so some of my certifications are in de-escalation. Fist fights, where companies have major issues, HR makes a misstep, departments walk out, people, big scandals, okay? And coming to the table, there's normally just a divide. And there's attorneys there, there's mediators, there's ombuds people, and there are people like myself. And my job is to try to communicate where the impasse came from. And I use this all the time because this, and you know, this is like a tool, like if nothing else is working. But nobody likes to feel like they are an oppressor or they are perpetuating some form of violence, okay? But this step ladder here, where we talked about bias, beliefs, interpretations, and our attitudes, assumptions, all those A and S and I and B words. You start at the bottom. Your bias is just your perspective. It's not the truth for everybody. We've demonstrated that in every exercise that we have had today. We're all different. We value different things. Bias happens, it's at the lowest level. Just because you're biased, you're not racist. Just because you're biased, you're not a bad person. Just because you're biased, you're not filled with hate. You just have impulsive things that you do with snap judgment. Now, stereotyping, that happens. We all have some form of stereotype. We all did it in here with the exercises. So if today you thought, I don't have, yes, yeah, we do. We thought it was a drug deal, we thought all these things, right? Myself included. So we stereotype, and what that means is we have a set image about a boss, about an instructor, about a relationship, about all these things. We have set images, and because we have them, we're gonna be biased. But then we have prejudice. Prejudice is when we judge every encounter thereafter the same. Everybody speaks the same language, okay? And as you can see, you're getting higher and higher up to discrimination. Our laws protect that title, not all of those things. They're offenses that can cost you money, can help you lose your job. We're in a cancel culture. You want to make sure that you have not come across this line, okay? So bias is going to be there. Stereotypes, yes. But when you get to this prejudice, we go up and down the things. Even myself, I prejudged my neighbor thinking that she was going to just dismiss it, and she didn't. But my bias, my stereotyping of her as a white woman during a time of all this racial divide and political unrest in my background, in my unbiased field, or in my subconscious, almost ruined a relationship because of prejudice on my part, okay? So again, I do this for a living and I'm not exempt. But this line here, the differential treatment, not cool. Not cool. Everybody knows what it feels like to belong. Everybody knows what it feels like when you don't, okay?